In today's video, we're going to be discussing my team selection ahead of double game week 28, and we're also going to be talking through my chip strategy ahead of blank game week 29. Before we dive into today's video, I just want to say that we're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers on the channel, so if you do enjoy any of the content that you see, be sure to like, comment, and of course that main one being hitting the subscribe button to help us achieve that goal by the end of the season. Starting off, we are going to discuss my points for game week 27, and as you can see, it has been a very, very good week for me. Around a 50k rank increase, which is what we like to see. We're going back in the right direction. Plenty of positives this week. Luckily, we did get the captaincy decision right, only by 1 point in the end. Obviously, Saka getting 2 assists, then whipped off at halftime, but thankfully, he did outscore Erling Haaland. He was going to be my other captaincy choice. Like I said in the deadline stream as well, for me, my top candidates were Saka, Haaland, and Watkins, and as you can see, all of them did perform. So if you did go for any of them, congratulations, you did do pretty well this week. In terms of other standout performers, obviously Odegaard was a player that I brought in for KDB last week. That transfer has paid off massively, especially this week. He is going to end up finishing on 10 as he did pick up 2 bonus during that game. Holding Phil Foden and not making the switch to Son as well was massive for my team. Him picking up 2 goals in the Manchester derby was absolutely insane. So very happy with that one. And as you can see, having Areola in goal, massive respect for him. I actually watched that game. If he'd have kept a clean sheet as well, it would have been fantastic. But I think it adds to this argument that I've said throughout the season. I don't think goalkeepers particularly matter. It seems very sporadic with their point scoring this season. There doesn't seem to be any kind of key standout one. I think as long as you have kind of a mid-table to kind of top half-ish goalkeeper who is going to make plenty of saves and has the potential to pick up some clean sheets and maybe a few penalty saves along the way, I think you're going to be fine. So very happy to have Areola. He is now the highest point scoring goalkeeper in the game. As you can see in defence though, things didn't quite go to plan. We did get the Gabriel clean sheet, so very happy with that one. Ezri Konsa picking up a point. I was happy that he was back for the Luton game, but in the end it did mean benching Doherty, and Doherty picked up an assist, so that one didn't work out too well. And then Senesi, who I've had for a few weeks now, that transfer hasn't worked out. He's picked up an injury, so it does look like we're going to have to potentially replace him. The other thing, Bournemouth managed to keep a clean sheet in that game as well, so that has made me miss out on another 5 potential points. Other candidates, probably for some shout-outs, has to be Jarrod Bowen. Very happy to keep him after the hat-trick, then an assist. He looked like West Ham's key danger man. With Kudus and Paquetá being back, I definitely think there is going to be some more attacking returns along the way for Jarrod Bowen. So overall, a very positive week for me in game week 27. Like I said, we're continuing back-to-back green arrows, so hopefully we can take that into double game week 28. Moving on to my double game week 28 team selection. Starting off in goal, we are going to go for Areola. I don't really have a playing goalkeeper. As you can see, I do have Matt Turner on the bench, so it's going to be Areola. Burnley at home, they're a pretty stinky team. Hopefully these back-to-back performances, strong performances from West Ham as well, hopefully can continue, and Areola can potentially pick us up a nice clean sheet in there. So nothing kind of to worry about with that one. I'm not going to change him. I'm not going to go and get another goalkeeper for Turner as well, as I just don't think transfers are worth kind of what they're like their weight in gold when you are taking a goalkeeper. There's very limited upside. It's very sporadic in the point scoring as well. So we're just going to stick with Areola. Moving on to our defenders, we've got Gabriel against Brentford. They seem very poor, struggling down the bottom half, not doing well for form. I think it's 1 win in their past 7 games now for them. So very confident that Arsenal should be able to keep a clean sheet at home against a struggling Brentford side as well. They look like they potentially could be some relegation candidates. Meanwhile, Arsenal are cruising at the moment, picking up wins consistently since the turn of the year and absolutely smashing teams, keeping plenty of clean sheets and are top for XG conceded. So very happy to have Gabriel. Moving on to my other 2 defenders, it is going to be doublers. It's going to be Doherty with Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. Hopefully he can keep maybe 1 clean sheet in there. I think more probable is that he's going to get an attacking return. He's on a lot of free kicks and corners, and when he does play in that left wing back position, he is absolutely fantastic for chance creation. Up there as one of the best defenders for expected assists so far this season. My only concern is that Luton are picking up a lot of defensive injuries, and at times he did slot into that centre-back position. It was only when they needed to go and chase the game that they did push him a little bit further forward. So hopefully he can start in that left wing back position, but, you know, it's Luton. They're struggling for clean sheets. They're struggling for defenders, so it might be a little bit of a trap, but let's hope for the best and see what he can do. Senesi, like I spoke about, he's currently flagged at 50%, so we're going to have to wait and see what Iriola says about his potential fitness, but he might be one of the players that does have to make way in this side. I was concerned about him potentially picking up a yellow card and maybe missing one of these games. Instead, he's gone and picked up an injury, which means he could miss both the doubles, which would be a shame because it is a really fantastic double for Bournemouth with both Sheffield United and Luton coming up. But we're going to have to wait and see on the press conferences what kind of is happening with him. Moving on into the midfield, we're going to start off with Phil Foden. Now, he's another player that I have identified that might potentially leave the team this week, which might seem a little bit controversial after his brace, but with a blank coming up next week and then the week after them facing Arsenal, I just don't think I'm going to be able to keep Phil Foden. I am going to potentially look to move to Son, but we will kind of put the transfers in after I've ran through the team selection as is at the moment. We do have 2 free transfers coming up, and Phil Foden is potentially one that could make way, but his form is slightly putting me off making that move. Moving on to my next midfielder, it is going to be Martin Odegaard. Like I said, Brentford seem in absolute disarray. Arsenal, on the other hand, are slapping teams for fun since the turn of the year. Odegaard with a goal, seems to play pretty much 90 minutes as well, is the captain for Arsenal, so very, very happy to hold him for another week. Jared Bowen with Burnley at home, the form, the kind of him and West Ham are going for at the moment. Like I spoke about in the last section, Paquetá and Kudus both being back as well. I do think that makes Bowen a much more valuable asset. You're getting a player that's going to be playing up front, can drift out on that right hand side as well, but he has looked absolutely fantastic the past 2 games, so very happy to have him again against one of the worst teams in the league. I've spoken about this with Jake on these streams. If you ever want to come along to one of those preview streams, they usually are on Wednesday or Thursday night at 7 o'clock, where we answer as many questions as we can and run through our teams. But like I said, I think Burnley is one of those fixtures now where we definitely need to be looking to target it. It's like a Sheffield United. They are very, very poor, conceding a lot of sloppy goals and giving a lot of players a lot of room, a lot of time to go and get the points that we require for our FPL side. Moving on to our final midfielder, it is going to be Saka. He obviously came off with a rest at half-time against Sheffield United in preparation for that Champions League tie with Porto. But again, very similar to Gabriel and Odegaard. The form that Brentford are in, I think he'll be back playing a full 90 for that one. So very happy to have him for this upcoming double game week. Moving on to my forwards. Again, there's going to be some potentially swapping and changing around in this area. Haaland is the one that potentially might make way for, you guessed it, it's going to be none other than Carlton Morris. With the double coming up for Luton and my chip strategy, moving away from playing the free hit in 29 and just rolling and taking 8 or 9 players into that game week, I think that's the strategy I'm going to go for. Wildcard out of it in 30 or 31, dependent on my team and the rest of the kind of players that I've brought in. But Haaland might make way. They've got Liverpool this week, then the blank, then Arsenal. Realistically, how many points is he going to score during that run? He's probably going to get a goal or 2, let's be real, it's Erling Haaland, but I definitely think there is huge upside to potentially go for a double game week player and a player with a game in game week 29, and Carlton Morris is cooking at the moment, so it might be V2 of Carlton Morris season, but we will have to come and see how that one looks in a few minutes. Moving on to my other 2 forwards, Ollie Watkins, very happy to have him. He seems very consistent. The only concern I do have is that Aston Villa will be playing Europa Conference League football on the Thursday night. 3 days later, they will be taking on Spurs as well, so a little bit of a difficult fixture for them, but I would expect Ollie Watkins to start in that one. Then my captain for this week at the moment is going to be Dominic Solanke. The double is very, very delicious, but he didn't look overly too kind of comfortable with his potential knee injury against Burnley. He didn't look like he was running smoothly, so we're going to have to see and wait and see what Iriola says about his potential fitness and just make sure he is going to at least see a large proportion of this double. But he is playing 2 of the worst defenses in the league for XG conceded, so it makes sense to go and give him the armband. Quick run through of the bench before we move into the transfers. Turner, like I said, he's not going to play. Garnacho's in there, he's got a good fixture, might potentially make his way into that side. Konza, he's going to sit on the bench, and of course Charlie 1 point is definitely going to sit third sub. So let's have a play around of what I'm actually thinking of doing. So it's going to be Foden out, and we're going to bring in Son. And then it's going to be Haaland out for Carlton Morris. I never thought I'd see the day that Carlton Morris would make their way into this team. So this is how the team would look. If Senesi is fit as well, that would give me 4 doublers for this week. It'd also give me 2 players next week for the blank game week for Luton. If Senesi isn't fit, I think there might be the probability that we just chuck one of Konza or Taylor in. I'm not too keen. My other potential option is going to be Robinson from Fulham. He has looked pretty decent for them. Fulham as well have been picking up some quite positive results. Again, has a game in game week 29, but we are obviously going to wait for results first from Arsenal, not from Arsenal, from Iriola, comments around his potential fitness. So what that would mean for the team, if I just move on to the next week, where's that function gone? There we go. This is how the team would look. Make sure you guys can see that. This is how the team would look. So Ezri Konza would come back in. Charlie Taylor would come in. So yeah, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 players playing. Obviously, we'd probably take out one of these guys, and then we'd get 9. I think that's a pretty good solid 9 as well. The key players for me this game week are going to be Son and Watkins. They're probably going to be the captaincy material that you go for. And if you can get something like this out with 8 or 9 players, I definitely think it's not worth using that free hit button. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers on the channel. So if you do want to help me hit that goal, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in the comments, as I will try to answer them at any point during this week. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck this game week.